We're back with Sallust. He tells us at the beginning of this third paragraph, "It is glorious to serve one's country by deeds. Even to serve her by words is a thing not to be despised. One may become famous in peace as well as in war, not only those who have acted, but those also who have recorded the acts of others oftentimes receive our approbation." Now, when I'm reading a passage like this, and this is just the first part of the first paragraph of 2 that we'll be reading today. When I read a passage like this, one thing that, just to kind of pull back the curtain and show you how the sausage is made when it comes to academic study, I always have a pencil in my hand when I'm reading for study. And I'll show you here, and it's actually backwards, and I don't know how to fix that. If you know how to fix that, please comment in let me know in the comments below. But we have here, I make notes in the margin, and I just kind of put some hatch marks in the text to let me know where this comment ties back to. That way I don't end up with a lot of distracting highlighted colors or underlines or circles or arrows or whatever in the text itself. I can read it again without having all of that distraction. And then I've got some quick notes in the margin I can get back to. I actually have an entire system of how to do this so that when you go back to review your notes and you look in the margin, you know very quickly if what you were writing about in the margin is appropriate for some type of assignment, or maybe for a podcast or some video that you're doing. There's a way that I teach to annotate over here that lets you get back to those comments very quickly. And it really shortcuts the time that you spend studying and researching. And part of researching is that you're going back through what you've read and you're searching again for those things that you found helpful. Well, I've got a way to put that in the margin. If you want more about that, just check out. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll figure out a way to get you some information on that. So anyway, part of what Sallust is telling us here is he wants to do such a good job in reporting these things, these great deeds by others, that he deserves our approbation. One of the marks that I make is I just make a little, like a hyphen, but I put that right under the middle of the word if I don't understand what the word means, and then I stick that over in the margin and I keep reading. A lot of people make the mistake when they're going to read something difficult like this of when they see a word they don't understand, going and grabbing a dictionary, trying to find out what it means right then, and then you've not only engaged in several physical acts that take you away from the physical act of reading, but intellectually you've gotten out of the text over to try to find what this word means, and then you have to, once you have a meaning for the word, which may or may not be the meaning, then you come back and you read through again and see if that makes sense. What I find more useful is just to mark it, put it over there in the margin, and keep reading. Oftentimes, especially with these great authors, oftentimes you'll get an idea of what the word means by the time you get to the end of the page, or within a couple pages. It just won't matter anymore. And then you can go back later, you can look for those hyphens in the margin, go back, find the word because the hyphens right underneath the middle of the word, and you can make your list of words to go and to look up, and that's a way to save some time. So anyway, he wants to receive our approbation. He wants to be worthy of that. And for myself, although I am well aware that by no means equal repute attends the narrator and the doer of the deeds, I regard the writing of history as one of the most difficult of tasks. First, because the style and diction must be equal to the deeds recorded, and in the second place, because such criticisms as you make of others' shortcomings are thought by most men to be due to malice and envy. Furthermore, when you commemorate the distinguished merit and fame of good men, while everyone is quite ready to believe you when you tell of things which he thinks he could easily do himself, everything beyond that he regards as fictitious, if not false. He wants us to understand that if we were looking back on, say, the past 30 years of history and talking about some incredible things that have happened, Michael Jordan doing a 180 or a 360 dunk or whatever, it seems like he was jumping from half court sometimes, to slam dunk over opponents and whatever. We might read that if we didn't see it with our own eyes. We might read that and go, come on, that didn't really happen. I don't believe that really happened because I can't do it. Well, that's not fair. And Sallust wants us to understand that he's going to be writing about some incredible things, and it's not fiction. He's an eyewitness to this. And he wants to give us a he wants to share it with us in a way that when we read it, we can put ourselves in his shoes as someone who is observing these things firsthand. Now, he knows the people who are going to be reading what he's writing, and he knows that they will take him to task if he is false in what he's writing. We need to keep that in mind as well. Writing history 2,000 years ago was a big deal, and you could get in big trouble if you misreported history. And so he's wanting to be very careful to let the reader know that he's being honest in what he's sharing, as honest as he knows how to be, as unbiased as he knows how to be. And it's important for us today, especially when reading someone like Sallust, to know that and to give him some grace, to give him some benefit of the doubt that what he is saying is true. And then to realize that he could not understand how far-reaching his influence would be. You see, there are things that he writes about here that had a profound influence on the founding generation and on some of the more studied and scholarly among the founding fathers of the United States of America. And so he, from 2,000 years ago, is having a profound impact on those who designed and put into operation the country that became and is the world power, that has a profound amount of influence in faraway places where people have never, they've only thought about seeing, say, the streets of New York or San Francisco or the Golden Gate Bridge, the St. Louis Arch. We've had profound influence come out of the founding of this country. And the founders of this country had profound respect for Sallust. So he's trying not to be false. He's trying not to be fictitious, and wants us to understand that he's doing his dead level best to be honest. Now he continues, "When I myself was a young man, my inclinations at first led me, like many another, into public life, and there I encountered many obstacles. For instead of modesty, incorruptibility, and honesty, shamelessness, bribery, and rapacity held sway." When he was a young man, he wanted, like some of the politicians that we've sent from Arkansas to Washington, D.C., he wanted to make a big change. And he found himself in that pressure cooker that is the public eye of big-time politics. He found himself unable to resist kind of shrinking back. When the big moment came, kind of shrinking back. And we saw, several years ago, we saw some politicians that we sent up from Arkansas to Washington, D.C., they were sent to accomplish some very specific things, like do this, this, and this. And it ended up on those three things, they just didn't. They got there and their voting record showed that they really didn't do the thing that they were sent to do. And they've moved on to other positions in political careers. And Sallust wants us to know he was like that too. He went full of idealism. He wanted to be modest and incorruptible and honest in what he was doing, but instead he was shameless. He allowed bribery and rapacity to sway him. So this kind of, you think about the movie Yellowbeard, where they're going around and doing the pillaging and everything. He kind of had let that mindset overtake him instead of going and simply doing the job that he was sent to do. He says, "And although my soul, a stranger to evil ways, recoiled from such faults," he didn't really want to be that way. It made him sick to think about being rapacious and engaging in bribery and shameless acts. He said, "Yet amid so many vices, my youthful weakness was led astray and held captive by ambition. For while I took no part in the evil practices of the others, yet the desire for preferment made me the victim of the same ill repute and jealousy as they." I think what he wants us to understand is he's going to be showing us some tremendous things going on with some very seasoned politicians. And the tactics that they're using, the games that they're playing 2,000 years ago, I said it in the last Sallust video, you'll see some direct parallels to what's going on in the United States today. And he wants us to know that the young men that go and, here in the U.S., that can be as young as 25, going to Congress, that they are not equipped for this game. And you're going to see them make some terrible mistakes, like we saw a couple years ago with the guys that we sent from Arkansas. And Sallust wants us to show them, he won't use the word grace. If he were this side of the cross, he might use the word grace. But he wants us to have some understanding and to allow time for these mistakes to turn into the strength and resolve, which we've also seen out of these politicians as we've allowed them to become. And not cutting them off in their youthful mistakes, but allowing them to become. And I think this is something that every man who has any age on him at all recognizes. When he was in his teens, in his 20s, man, I think about myself, teens, 20s, 30s, some real mistakes, some big mistakes. And Sallust wants us to remember we are in the process, these politicians himself, in the process of becoming. When we look around at the world today and we see all the craziness that's going on, it's easy to think that this is the only time it's ever happened and to get discouraged. Like I said last time, history does not necessarily exactly repeat, but it does have a quirky way of rhyming. And we're going to see, when we get into the tactics of these one name or a couple name politicians. They don't have last names. We have guys like Julius Caesar. We have Cato the Younger. These men are huge in history because of what they became. And at some point in their life, they were in danger of being cut off and maligned and marginalized by society because of their mistakes. And they were allowed to continue developing, allowed to become. And that's why we're reading about them 2,000 years later. When we think about studying and getting to know these men, one of the things I hope that we can take away from this study is, as we learn to ask the right kind of questions to understand why these tactics worked 2,000 years ago, when we see them happening today, we can exercise some wisdom, and we can coordinate to push back on tyranny, especially when we have good men and good women who have gone up to try to preserve liberty, and they find themselves involved in a system that immediately starts to challenge them and starts to want to corrupt them. And we need to find ways to help these politicians as they become, not to become corrupted, but to become more courageous for the cause of liberty. And I trust that as we get deeper into Sallust, we'll see some of those things. If you have thoughts, if you have ideas, if you have questions or anything like that, feel free to drop it in the comments below or reach out to me. My email is in the description, or should be. And if it's not, I'll put it there. And reach out if you want to. And I want to continue this conversation and not just have videos where I'm sharing my thoughts, but rather where we're interacting and I'm able to address some questions that you might have and fold some of your insights into what it is that I think is, and it's an important thing to understand history so that we can prepare ourselves to defend ourselves against the rhymes that we see going on around us today. Anyway, I hope you have a great day. I've got several other videos in the pipeline, and we'll continue with the Sallust, but I also have some other things that I'll be doing. I did a short with a poem, talked a little bit about the books behind me, and I'll be doing some other things as well. Check out the What is Liberty video, and let me know what you think about that. That's a great idea that I plan to go through a lot of these books on the shelf behind me in whatever time I have to talk about liberty in ways that we can strengthen not only the liberty that we have access to, but that we can better enjoy and better handle that liberty so that we're succeeding and profiting by it and not being run over like Sallust when he first started in his political career. Anyway, love you. Hope you have a great day, and I look forward to visiting again soon.